Hey guys, you're listening to the Energy of the Untamed Heart podcast, where we talk about uncaging your divinely gifted wild heart to be as free and expansive as you were born to be. My goal is to use our stories, guest interviews, and your questions to tease out what has been keeping your wild heart under wraps. I'm your host, Mielle Fox, and together we will shatter the myths of our old stories to set our wild heart free. So thanks for choosing you and showing up today. I'm so excited to bring Marta Merrick to the show today. As a former barefoot hoof care provider, Marta has grown into empowering others to care for their horses in a holistic way for their hooves as well as their overall care with a focus on lifestyle and prevention. Incorporating a variety of holistic care modalities to enhance wellness has been instrumental in the health of her horses. Sharing these with others is transformative for both the horse and the human. Marta uses modalities such as essential oils, energy work, red light therapy, attention to lifestyle and nutrition, and these have created a foundation for good health and happy horses. A driving force in applying all of these areas includes listening to and following her intuition. So excited to bring Marta on, and let's get rocking. People who are into that sort of a philosophy about what can we do to make our horses lead and have their best available life, it's actually a really small circle. Like there are people all over the country. And if I say, oh, do you know Marta? They're like, oh, yeah, I know Marta. Yeah, it's that small. It's really that small.
Yeah.
So I love that because I also feel like when you put out what is in your heart, what you believe in, what's true to you, what feels right to you, you draw in people who need that, want that, or believe that as well. And those who don't just sort of kind of fall off to the wayside, and so be it. So,
Bingo.
yeah.
That's why I said yes to this, because we
Yeah.
have that same philosophy.
Yeah,
And I totally
it's
agree.
really great. So I will tell you a little backstory because I know you're like, I don't remember that.
I
You
know
had
now.
a you had a booth there, and it was with the Young Living Oils. I brought my mare to that, and it was probably one of maybe 3 shows we did in her whole career because I discovered that's not my gig. She's done traditional show of all different levels, and she's done competitive working equitation. We're actually on the cover of the website, and she can do it all. And she's a high performer, and she can do all the things, but it isn't what necessarily keeps her in her happy place. So my happy place is just to be with them and just to spend time with them, do the bonding thing, and, throw in a trail right here. What I've come to over the course of 14 years with this animal is how do I create the best relationship for both of us that fulfills the things that maybe I would love to do and the things that make her happy. And it has really come full circle. You hear a lot of things like, oh, your horse will do better when she's worked, X number of days per week or whatever. And granted, sure, that does keep her a little bit more settled in her mind because she's a thinker, but the pressure of perform and do, because that creates anxiety for me, creates anxiety for her. And so part of what I was like, I want to talk to Marta because she wraps up all the things in one package. She talks about the feet and how important the feet are and how important it is to use not just your tools that you have, whether it's oils or body work or whatever, but also to lean into your intuition about how you tune in to the energy of your horse as well as the energy of yourself, and that connection I find so fascinating. So fascinating. So with that, I'm turning it over to you.
I'll just continue on that is the point that I've been getting to, really, is realizing that the whole energetic connection, that our emotions, who we are, our past, the things that we deal with, the things that, I'll use the word trigger, quote unquote, the things that trigger us, the things that we react to like quickly, those things are things that the horses will pick up on. I've really gone to an introspective way of dealing with things in terms of getting myself balanced before I do things with my horses. I know I've gone out to the paddock before. Something's happened when I've been in the house. I got to go out and feed them and do something. And I've just internally, I'm a mess. And I go out there and, my Haflinger can do something as simple as come up, and he doesn't respect space too well. He's he's a happy little halflinger, and he wants to put his nose into everything, but he can just come up too much in my space, and I can just lose it. And it's because I haven't gotten myself okay mentally, emotionally, before I go and deal with them. Looking back at your mare you're talking about, doing things that are going to, what do I want to say, bring out what you know is best for her, and working together, but not in the confines of what all the sports, if you will, are telling us that we have to do. So for a mare like that, I would just be out playing at liberty with her. I would be seeing if I can think a thought and have her get that and make a connection, and just do all of those discovery things that really make things fun. And I think what you'll find, and I don't even know your mare, but it sounds like in the big open space, she's pretty unconfident. She's more confident in the closed arena. And that if you did a lot of things to gain trust and your personal relationship within that safe space, that eventually you would be able, and she would be happier out in the larger space.
Yeah, she's a really interesting, very interesting horse. Her confidence level changes depending on where she is. And the more the anxiety for her will build because she doesn't hold the confidence, the more I have to lean into my own confidence to help her, to sort of say, hey, girl, I got you. It's okay. I got you.
Right.
So the other piece
So,
that I found important for her early on is she was not well socialized as a baby. So because she was showbred, she was kept separate from other little horses, because of course, in the show world, God forbid, don't ding them up, don't have a scratch, don't have a bite, the whole thing. And
yeah.
that's not how it works in my world. A horse should be a horse. They're a herd animal. They need to be out with the herd. So I bought her young and I brought her home, and I slowly introduced her to the rest of the herd and put her out in the big field over time. And for better, for worse, in the course of 2 or 3 years, she had several events, shall we say, that sort of sidelined her. But she has over time learned her dynamics. It took a long time. And why am I saying this? Why am I telling you the story? Because I think it really makes a difference. It's just like social conditioning for a human, social conditioning for a horse. If our social conditioning doesn't teach us those attributes or tools within ourselves to take on different external exposures, then we don't have a toolkit and we don't know what to do. And so our default is fear, run, self-preservation, whatever the thing may be. So a lot of what I've spent time with this particular mare is bringing her along to build confidence in her, to give her the tools so that when things kind of go zigzag, we don't have a wreck. Because I feel like she was not provided a good, solid sense of herd dynamics. Great training, but not great herd dynamics. And so I think it would be like not setting your child up properly before you ship them off to school or college or whatever, not giving them the tools so that they can survive in the world. And so, again, for listeners who may or may not know this about a horse, their driving force is to survive. That's their world, and to feel safe. Those are their two. Let me survive and let me feel safe. And their electromagnetic field that extends beyond them is far greater than our human one, because why? They need to survive. And so if we take that little scientific piece of info, which is fascinating, about the expansion of their electromagnetic field from their body, meaning like where and how do they sense energy?
100 yards away from the house. That is their survival skill, is being able to sense that. I wanted to also comment on in your description about your mare, and it made me think horses come to us for a reason, and they come to help us with something through the relationship with them. And when you said your mare's a type A and you're a type A, and in order for her to be okay, you need to work on that grounding. And I think, again, that's part of the reason that they come, and why they are so instrumental in, they're really a self-development program for us, to be honest, because we do have to work on ourselves in order to have a successful working relationship with them.
The horse itself, and studying the horse and their movement and what makes them tick, and why are the feet important, and why is understanding musculature important, and what's the relationship between human balance and horse balance, and what we see in our horse is actually a reflection of what we have within ourselves, both emotionally and actually physiologically, I believe, to
Yeah.
me. That whole journey for me has been really, really very eye-opening, but there's definitely been, so your statement of, there is a personal development tool is 150% right on, but it's really interesting that my first decade or so in the horse world, I had the disconnect. To me, it was, how do I learn about training my horse so that I can ride safely? How do I learn
Mhm.
my body position so I can ride balanced? And the
Yeah.
whole next level of, how do I understand myself better in order for me to understand my horse better, that really didn't
Right.
happen till a good 10 years in, I'm gonna say, in my horse journey.
Wow.
Yeah,
See,
because I didn't
I
know.
feel fortunate. Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
fortunate, and part of this goes back to the whole intuition thing, is following um the feeling, follow a feel. I started with Pirelli. The beginning for me was later in life as well. I was like 40 something, just barely 40, 41-ish, and my daughter was 8. Okay. But horses had been building in our life. As I look back now, I can see their importance was lifting to the surface. Okay. And it's funny, as I look back on all of the stages now, how things moved to the surface, and those were the choices that I made based on how I was feeling and listening to that gut feeling. And this makes me feel good, and I feel like I'm supposed to be going this way. I remember going into a bookstore, and we had just gotten started with horses. My daughter and I took like 4 Saturday lessons. We moved here to Milton. She got hooked into new friends who were all 4-H horse girls. Okay. So that was her start, and that kind of opened the door for me. I helped out with that. But I remember going into the bookstore, Barnes and Noble bookstore, and I saw the Pat Pirelli's book, and I just picked it up and looked at it, and I'm like, this is what I want to know how to do with horses. It clicked for me. I'm like, I want that relationship thing. And so that was my first beginning. And then as we got started in it, I was a new person in horses, but within a couple years, I was given a 4-year-old unstarted. It was enlightening, but it was, the bigger picture is that I was able to, what do I want to say?
I
Help me
think
out.
the intuition piece is key. The
Uh,
following the breadcrumbs, the following what feels good to you. So
yeah.
so my journey when I started, of course, I knew absolutely nothing. So I'm like, okay, so before I buy a horse, I should probably go take some riding lessons. But
Yeah.
that didn't last long as far as, let me just live with a lesson horse. I really wanted to learn on my own horse. And
Mhm.
the universe gives you what you need when you need it. I really believe that. And I was so blessed and so lucky to stumble over my first horse. He was a been there, done that. A young girl had had him, and then she was in the teenage, I want boys in basketball and all the thing. And so she was moving the horse along, and I was able to acquire him, and the best teacher ever. He was just the best teacher for me as my first go around. Safe, solid, well mannered, but what I also call very able to fill in, meaning able to pick up the spaces where I was too clumsy, didn't know, maybe was a little too ambitious doing something, and just took it in stride and filled in the gaps. And unfortunately, he went kind of through a tragic ending, but long story, that was my first. It's funny, what you don't know what you don't know till you do. So I was given a really amazing first teaching horse for me. And then after he passed, I guess I was thinking, oh, I kind of know what I think I need to know. I was a little big for my britches at the time, and acquired my second horse, who was kind of somebody's throwaway, and he had a few problems, but he had a good heart, and that intuition of he has a good heart is what made me choose him. And I had him for a very, very, very long time, probably about 18 years after I bought him. But he had some issues. And again, I feel like I received what I needed. It was sort of like the level up from the first horse, where there were more challenges in the second horse that forced
Right.
me to look at myself and say, you better change what you're doing, man, because it ain't working.
That's it right there. That's it right there. It's like they come into our lives to teach us something. And for all, I don't know if you're in any of the horse groups, but when you read people and like, well, this horse really isn't working out. It's been here for like 4 months and I think I should get rid of it. And it's like, oh my goodness. So would any of you please consider that you need to look at what you are doing, that you need to learn more. They are trying to tell you something so that you can get better in dealing with them. And it's so easy for us to put the blame in the look, the eyes, the everything on the horse, and not turn it into ourselves and say, well, how could I do that differently? How could I think about this differently? Where, could I be different? It's just any of those things. If they could open their hearts and minds to that perspective, then I think they'd have a lot more success.
I agree.
For sure.
I agree. And without being terribly stereotypical, where I feel the turning point for people are so many, there's lots of different levels of horse ownership, I'm going to say. There's people who literally just want the ride, and they kind of view their livestock as livestock. Maybe somebody else takes care of it. Maybe somebody else trains it. Maybe they just show up on ride day, whatever that is. Then you have the people who are sort of in the middle. They want to do the ride, but they don't necessarily want to look at themselves as a contributor to why is the ride working or not working. And they do it at whatever level they're capable of. They do love their creature, but it has to fit the box. And if it doesn't fit the box, those are the ones that get sent down the road. Then you have the folks who view their horse more as a companion slash, I don't want to say pet, but companion slash pet versus just livestock, meaning they're a little bit more invested in the deal. And I think those are the folks who are open to the possibility that, oh, perhaps there's a piece of what I'm doing or not doing that's influencing how successful I feel I am with my horse. And then you've got the next level of people who really don't give a poop if they ever ride or do anything, because their primary driving force is, how do I create the best connection, bond, and relationship with my horse? And whether or not we actually do something beyond hanging out together, working together, liberty or not liberty or whatever. It isn't about, we have to go down the road, we have to go to the show ring, we have to jump, we have to whatever. So I think there's different awareness levels for horse owner slash rider. But when I think of it, that makes sense, because there's also different levels of human desire for awareness. There's people who live in their own little comfort zone. They don't want to know there's a different way. They don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to own up that maybe things are the way they are because of the choices they've made. Those are not necessarily truths that people who are not interested in personal development want to look at. And that's, to me, where there's a huge discrepancy between, why do you have a horse? Why do you want a horse? What are you willing to do for a horse versus not?
Well, so what and this was a hard lesson for me, is to learn that those are not the people that I need to be around. And those people really don't like me. They don't like anything I have to say. And so staying true to the things that I believe in. So I'm in the category, I really enjoy caring for animals, doing all the things from their nutrition right through to give them a happy lifestyle. I love trail riding. Haven't really been as avid since the trail riding person I always was riding with has kind of moved out of state. And I want to get back to it and do the horse camping. Love horse camping. So much fun. To caring for the animals and empowering people to do that for what's best for the animals. Okay. So whether you do have a high performance horse or you just want a horse out in your own yard to hang out with, there are things and ways to do that benefit them, not so much just our abilities or our wants as the person, but we need to, if we take into consideration how they digest, how, they're designed to move all the time, those kinds of things, that they're a herd animal. Locking them in a stall in a building is really not for the horse's benefit, bottom line.
But
And
this
there's
is true.
scientific, there are lots of studies out there that show that. So for me personally, having a conversation with someone who really is focused on winning a competition and has to keep their horse in a stall and do all the things that all the people say that they are supposed to do, that conversation doesn't usually go well because they're not there. I feel bad for the horse, wish them well, and move on and talk with people who may be listening to this podcast who have more of an interest in doing things that are for the horses, from the horse's perspective, for them, for a greater connection, because they talk to us and they're really quite as individual as people are. And once you start realizing and understanding that, it's amazing how much they tell you. And it takes things to a whole new level.
It
I
absolutely
believe.
does. What I hear you saying, and what is really very wise and will work definitely to your benefit, is to totally accept and understand not everybody is for me, and I am not for everybody. And unfortunately, in this scenario, talking about horses, there is a little bit of collateral damage to the horse in this piece, but okay, it is what it is. But to not have an attachment to the outcome of how many people like me, don't like me, accept what I have to say, don't accept what I have to say, it allows you to follow your passion. It allows you to follow your intuition. It allows you to lead your purpose as you are put here for you on this earth to bring forward your assistance and your aid and your message through
Right.
your interactions with the horse. And so a lot of why I do the podcast here, and I have lots of different people on. I have equine people because I could talk horse all day. But I also have, you name it, coaches, chefs, writers, artists, musicians, like everybody from all walks of life, because at the end of the day, whatever your avenue is or your means by which you express your purpose, express your love and passion, the message comes through the same. It's how do we deliver it? And so I love that you use a very comprehensive, holistic approach to how do we learn and self-develop for ourselves as well as for our horses by combining all these different things. Because basically what you're saying, mind, body, spirit for the horse. And if you take it back one step, it's really pretty simple. If the horse is mirroring everything within ourselves, they are a mirror for us, quite frankly. And if we can attend to their mind, body, spirit to provide them the best outcome, well, in order to do that, that means we have to become aligned mind, body, spirit within ourselves to bring that forward. And there, not everybody's going to be at the same place in their journey. And that's okay.
They're not.
Because,
right. I agree with that. And that's true. And just what made me think too is the daily care though. I want to empower people to have a better understanding for their daily care. Okay. So coming from the hoof perspective, how many people just schedule their farrier? They go, they either they're not there or they hold the horse and never even look at the feet and they have no idea what's going on. Well, if you have horses, I feel you should have a pretty good understanding of the hoof and what it does and how a healthy one should look, and be able to just to look at that and have a conversation with your professional, whether it be the farrier or your veterinarian, or if you have a chiropractor or a massage person or any of them, but be able to have a question, ask it, and have a thought out response from that professional and not be talked down to. I've had that experience in the past when I was starting out. Okay, so as you get started with something, you're learning all the new language, all the new protocols, and you follow the people, right? So you're learning all of this stuff. But I always had that, well, I don't really feel like that's a good idea. I get that gut feeling. And so I had to do research. And as I do research and then ask questions, sometimes people in professional things areas don't want to be questioned. They're just, this is what I do. You need to listen to me. Well, what I want to tell people, or that I do within my group, the Hearts of Horses, Empowering Through Holistic Care, is that you are the caretaker. That it's up to you to know these things and decide for your animal, because you know them best. You know their behaviors, you know how they feel, you know when they're off. You can tell if they're walking differently, if they're feeling differently, or just any small minor detail, a change. If you walk out and they just feel different, if you're now open and sensitive to that, you can feel that they're off somehow. And what my thing is I want to give people tools to utilize so that they can make some assessments and either attempt to fix things on their own, or know that it's beyond their scope, and then yes, go to larger professional help to do that. But yeah, that daily care, I think, for many is a big thing. Like having horses in your life and going out to your barn and seeing them on a daily basis, isn't that like one of the most rewarding things in your life?
Oh my gosh.
It
Oh,
is.
absolutely. I
It's
mean, and I have to
decompressing.
be totally transparent. I am so blessed and so fortunate that I'm able to have my animals at home. I realize it's easy for us to say, oh, well, it's the daily care. For some people, they want to be involved with equines, but they don't have the capacity to keep them in their space. And I get that. And so for those folks, they do need to board or whatever the thing may be. And I get that too. So if
Right.
you are fortunate enough to be able to have them in your proximity and do that daily caretaking, it is
Right.
absolutely, it is the thing that allows you to really develop and create that deep bond. The analogy to me is like, well, if you have like a nanny raise your children and you're not involved, you don't see your kids every day. You don't see the little things.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. If you have somebody else doing the things day in and day out that you would normally do, then the
Right.
bond is going to not be with you. It's going to be with whoever does the daily caretaking. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a gift.
Or being able to see the little nuances of being off.
I will tell you, this is a perfect example. Also very, very, very fortunate. I have really very good access to good caretaking professionals in my area, including
Nice.
we have a chiropractor acupuncturist vet in our area who comes
Awesome.
routinely. And my sister is an equine osteopath, so I kind of have it in. So I'm like,
Oh,
ooh. So that's really handy. That's really, really handy.
awesome.
Yeah. So, but not everybody has access to that if they are not necessarily either aware of it and or geographically accessible to that. But two, I find here, especially in the United States, we're a little bit behind the times in terms of the value of having different types of treatments available. We're very typically, it has to be the vet and only the vet. And it is just kind of becoming a little more mainstream that, oh, guess what? You could have a chiropractor, a myofascial person, an osteopath, there's a litany of all these different available
Right.
treatments. And is that any different than us as humans? As humans, we can go to the chiropractor, we can go to the acupuncturist, we can go to the natural doctor, we can go to the Western doctor. For humans, we're like, advocate for your health. If you don't like what you hear, get a second opinion. Well, to me, that should be the same thing when you have feedback on your animal. If it doesn't ring true,
Right.
if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't sit right, that should at least be your ding,
Right.
ding, ding, consider a second opinion. Or educate yourself or
I think there are a lot,
something.
I think there are a lot of people who don't have confidence to speak up to a professional. They don't feel confident in themselves to be contrary to what someone is saying. And so they just don't feel they can say anything. But to take that one step further, one of the other things that I really talk about and promote is the whole prevention mindset. So when you set up an environment, when you set up the nutrition, when you put in place all of the things that are going to alleviate really the high ranking things that are a problem with horses. Okay, colic, right? Well, you keep a horse in a stall and it can't move and it gets all its meals right there. What do you think is going to happen to that 100 feet of intestine? There's going to be a backup. There's also, the emotional stress. And that's what it all comes down to, is emotions. So if your horse is not emotionally happy, if they're carrying emotional trauma, these things are going to reflect in physical issues. I put together this little chart that made it easier for me to be able to identify those things. Now I put it into a little, like a mini course, but it makes it so much easier to know that, okay, if something's off in the gut chronically or even sporadically, then these are some of the things that my horse could be feeling. So how can I fix those things to get rid of this gut issue now? Okay. And that's really what it comes down to. And even for us, it's like, how do you fix the emotional scars or traumas or things that we carry with us? We may not even realize what they are, but they are with us. They're in our cells, and we need to be able to release those. And part of what I am able to do through Healing Touch for Animals is to utilize essential oils and those energy techniques to start doing those things too. And then let people know that they can learn how to do that. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
not special. I just took the courses. So
Right.
you can take the courses too and learn how to do that. You know what? And I don't have one right here on me, but gosh, a pendulum for testing your horse's energy centers is so perfect. I usually have one in my pocket. I can go out, use a pendulum, and check all my horses every morning when I go out to feed and see how they're doing. And if there's not some energy moving in a certain area, well, then something's a little off and I need to pay attention to that. And there are a few different things that I can utilize to take care of that before anything gets bigger and blows up.
I think there are lots of different ways, lots of different modalities to use for testing. And for anyone who's not familiar with what does a pendulum do, it's not magic whammy. It's not like woohoo. It is basically a conduit of transferring energetic information. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. It comes through in the form of transmitting through some kind of a crystal base or a stone gem base or copper, metal, depends on what you use, but it's a conduit for, think of it like a phone cord. You're getting information about energetic stagnation or movement through the movement of the pendulum. So it's not woody woo, because people are like, what does that mean? So it's fascinating. We talk a lot about what are the things we can do to understand and remove the blocks that allow us to have our energy move clearly. In humans, we talk about it as energy centers or chakras. There's lots of different terminology, but I certainly feel that as a horse owner or someone engaged in the equine world, because we bring them into our world, to me, it becomes our responsibility to learn and know what we can to bring them the best available options, since they didn't exactly choose to be with us directly. In a way they did, but didn't. So that being said, and we understand it's absolutely all connected. The emotions, the physical presentations, the stability of their feet, of course, is what they stand on. It all starts from the foot and moving forward from there. So tell us, I know you have several programs. I know you have a hoof program. You have the program you just described with the healing and the oils and the assessment of how can you tell if there's something working, not working. Where can people find you, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have a website, martamerrick.com, and a couple of those things so if you're interested in learning to trim your own horses, that is one of the things that when I had clients, when I was working regularly, if someone expressed an interest in learning to do that or wanted to maybe stretch out their having me come, they could do the in-between trims. I was more than happy to show them. I feel people, when they take responsibility of those things, that they give their horses a higher level of care because they're right there paying attention to it. The trimming your own course is an online thing where you have videos, it's go at your own pace, you have access whenever you want, you're in it, and there's a private group that goes along with it so you can have extra support. So you can find that on the website. The mini course is about connecting your energy centers, emotions, and using essential oils to piece that together so that you can help alleviate some of the both physical and emotional things that are connected there. And then the group where I'm just curating all kinds of holistic care information. And it might be some interviews that I have with people, lots of videos that I share, whether it's massage techniques, there are guide sections that have many, many topics. I think there's probably close to 45 topics. So you could go in there and look up ulcers and find a bunch of information on ulcers and holistic care stuff dealing with it.
And
on
that's
my
all through your
website,
website.
There's a tab on there so you could connect to that group, the Hearts of Horses Empowering Through Holistic Care. It's a Facebook group. I'm also on Instagram, share reels there and a variety of things of just general horse care. I feel like I'm going to be doing more of those things. Talking about attract systems are very important to me. It's where I got started, and I think they're the foundation for really having happy, healthy horses at home when we're not using them for work. So they need to be able to move and be happy in a herd and have like motivation to do and go places. And I don't have a huge space. I only have it's a quarter mile, but it's a loop that goes around. It's varied terrain. They go downhill, so they're getting hill work. I trail ride, and it's ideal. They have to pick through rocks, over trees, stuff like that. The other pieces that it offers is the browsing aspect. So horses kept with the big rectangle field, they only eat grass. They get one thing, they get fed twice a day, maybe. They don't get the variety of plant material that you would if you had enrichment or the ability on a track. So
yeah,
I think those are important pieces.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to put all the information in our show notes so people will have a way to access you. And I'm sure there's a wealth of information in the directory if people want to build a track on their property or learn the fundamentals of a track, as well as what to look for in their horse's feet, and reach out for that. And there's just so
all
much.
Of those things. There's a guide on track stuff. I have videos showing you actually walking around in mine and some others. There is also a free hoof workshop in that group. So if you want to learn more about hooves, and I have actual wild Mustang hoof that is cut in half, and I show you internal structures and all of that. And that's in a free guide right in the group. So you can just check it out.
Absolutely.
Free
I mean,
workshop.
at the bare minimum, just having some knowledge of what's in there certainly will open the avenue for learning more.
A lot of doors.
Absolutely. I really appreciate
actually
your time.
I did want to.
I can help the people who want the help. I can be there, but I can't change the fact that not everybody is on this kind of a philosophy, and that's a hard place. I mean, I have people who think I'm totally batshit crazy doing these podcasts, talking about following your intuition, talking about opening the key to your heart, talking about let's get rid of the old stories and the beliefs, talking about owning your shit. I mean, people think I'm wackadoodle. And I'm like, hey.
I know, and that's what drew me to you, or to say yes is like, that's where I'm at too. So that, I mean, it just proves that whole, you draw your people in.
You absolutely do. And it used to, for a little while, because I practice publicly, and I was kind of hesitant, like, to put myself on a public profile and to put a podcast together and to really get out there. And, I think my boss thinks I'm a little wacky some days, but I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not bringing any harm to anybody. I'm speaking what I believe is true in my heart. The people who want to hear it are going to show up, and the people who don't are going to scroll on by or walk away. And I'm not breaking any laws. As y'all know, I could talk horses like all day long, so I just want to wrap this little chat up with Marta. So good to have her on. In her own words, we all have incredible abilities that go unnoticed and undiscovered. Developing an awareness of our abilities is just the beginning. Our intuition is the greatest thing that we squash away. If we were to spend more time nurturing, listening, and following it, life can become far more balanced. Thank you, Marta. Words of wisdom. You can find Marta on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Marta Merrick, and also on her Facebook group, The Hearts of Horses Empowering Through Holistic Care. And as always, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram at Miel Fox, or on the website at www.foxdenenergetics.com. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming releases and episodes. Episodes come out every Thursday. Sometimes it's a guest episode, sometimes it's a solo episode. But absolutely be sure you don't miss any. Set your notifications so you know when to come on, and we'll see you next time.